People who've been kidnapped, how did you survive? I was 12 when this man in a gray hoodie approached me outside my art class. He knew my dad's name, Ryan, and said there'd been an accident at the factory where dad worked. He even knew I always bought strawberry Pop-Tarts from the vending machine after class. Your dad sent me to get you to the hospital, he said, showing me his phone with what looked like a text from dad's number. My hands were shaking, but I got in his beat-up Honda Civic. He didn't drive toward the hospital. Instead, he got on Highway 52 going the opposite direction. When I asked where we were going, he pressed the door locks and said, "Change of plans, kiddo." I watched him throw my backpack out the window about 10 minutes later, including my phone. My stomach dropped when I realized what was happening. We drove for 2 hours. He kept the radio on some country station and occasionally offered me beef jerky from a bag on his dashboard. He wasn't mean or scary like the kidnapper movies I'd seen. He just seemed lonely and kept talking about how his daughter would have been my age if she hadn't moved away with his ex-wife. Finally, he stopped at a Shell station near some tiny town I'd never heard of. "Bathroom break," he said, walking me inside while keeping his hand on my shoulder. The women's restroom was small and dingy, with a broken mirror and a trash can overflowing with paper towels. That's when I saw it. Taped to the back of the door was this faded poster about human trafficking. At the bottom it said, "If you're in danger, leave a note where someone will find it." I didn't have paper, but in my jacket pocket was the receipt from the art supply store where I'd bought paintbrushes earlier. Using a stubby pencil from the same pocket, I wrote, "Help, kidnapped, in gray Honda, please call police." I folded it tight and dropped it behind the trash bin, hoping someone would eventually clean back there. When we left the gas station, he drove us deeper into the woods to this old trailer with peeling paint and boarded up windows. There was no electricity, but he had battery-powered lanterns everywhere. He gave me a sleeping bag and some crackers, then locked the door from the outside. Through the thin walls, I could hear him talking to himself or maybe someone on the phone. The next morning, he came back with fast food breakfast and acted like we were camping. He told me stories about his childhood and asked about my school and friends. I realized he wasn't planning to hurt me. He just wanted someone to talk to, someone who couldn't leave like everyone else in his life had. I started playing along. I called him Sir and asked questions about his job at the lumber mill. Whenever I mentioned my parents, I made sure to say things like, "My dad's really good with computers and tracking stuff," or "My mom always knows when something's wrong with me." I hoped it would make him nervous about keeping me too long. Back at the gas station, a woman named Linda was cleaning the bathrooms during her evening shift. She found my note behind the trash can and almost threw it away, thinking it was just kids playing a prank. But something about the handwriting made her take it to her manager, who called the police immediately. They pulled the security footage and got a clear shot of the man's face and his license plate. The police matched the Honda to a stolen car report from 2 counties over. They started checking every back road and hunting cabin in a 50-mile radius. Meanwhile, the man kept leaving me alone for hours at a time while he went to town for supplies. On the 3rd day, he was gone longer than usual. I was sitting on the trailer's front step when I heard cars coming down the dirt road. 2 police cruisers pulled up, and officers jumped out with their hands on their weapons. One of them shouted, "Are you Kayla?" I nodded and ran toward them. They found the man 20 minutes later at a hardware store in town, buying rope and duct tape. When they arrested him, he didn't fight or try to run. He just asked if I was okay and said he was sorry for scaring me. The whole thing lasted 3 days, but it felt like weeks. My parents were waiting at the police station when they brought me in. Mom cried so hard she couldn't speak, and Dad just held me for what felt like an hour. The man got 8 years in prison, and I had to testify at his trial. He looked different in the courtroom, smaller and sadder.